There's so many forces at play in refugee camps. They're in some ways the most human environments that you'll ever find yourself in, because there's the best of humanity, there's the worst of humanity. You see people coming together to support one another in a way that you never would in a non-conflict related situation. And war just brings out, you know, the whole of the human heart in a way that nothing else does. I was astonished to see so much kind of community, so many people laughing, but at the same time, I was also overwhelmed with the sadness of what I was seeing. A refugee isn't something else. It's not the other. It's not. These are people with cell phones and, you know, receding hairlines and, you know, pot bellies and like everybody else, like the rest of us. And in Syria, they're people who used to drive through Damascus in the same car that your dad might have, you know, wearing an Armani suit, and now are living in a tent or in, you know, a shelter behind somebody's house who took them in. So there's a huge range of experience in what it is to be a refugee, from coming from a luxury penthouse apartment to, you know, starting out in an incredibly challenging already environment of long-term insecurity. In the people that you see photographed here had been in insecure environments in Sudan for years, and had very, very little when they made the long journey to get from Sudan to the new South Sudan, and generally did so by foot. And what was most important to them was very frequently survival implements, objects that would help them to get from point A to point B and stay alive during the journey. For people that are coming a shorter distance, you know, just driving across a border, for one, they're able to bring less in some cases, because they can't appear as though they're out, you know, going to go and flee across a border. But it also tends to be things that have more of a symbolic or a spiritual value, like a Quran or a key to an apartment that might well have been blown apart and not exist any longer. So there's a huge range of what people place value on, and it's very much based upon the context of where they come from culturally and geographically, and where they're going to, and the nature of the journey. It usually takes about a week of work in order to do one of the chapters. There's about kind of 12 to 16 individuals, portraits, case studies for each of the different chapters, and it takes about a week to do the interviews and finding subjects, and to make, you know, to put each chapter together. It's so hard. You know, in some ways, I feel like this silly thing, if it doesn't have a battery, it can't do anything. But for what I do in terms of photography, in terms of communication, if there's no network and there's no electricity, it's useless, and I just throw it away. But so if I'm in a survival situation like a South Sudanese refugee, what I would take is probably very different than I knew if I were going from Zaatari, or if I were going from Syria to Jordan, where there still will be, you know, a network and electricity. So in some cases, it would probably be my telephone, so that I could continue to, and I can document, I can take notes on it, I can transmit images on it, I can stay in contact with editors or family members. So in a lot of ways, that silly little thing opens up the world. If I were in Central Africa and we're running from one place to another, and it's all so contextual. So tell me which two countries I'm fleeing between. What's the conflict? And maybe I'll have a better answer. So I flee to Lisbon with, well, obviously the people that you love are the most important thing, but in terms of an object, it might be either this camera or that telephone that I just threw on the floor.